Hello everybody. So okay, let's continue with our review. Okay. So market is basically is an arrangement by which we can uh, by which buyers and sellers can communicate and exchange goods and services. Okay. So okay, so yeah, uh, so we will be going through all the topics okay, which are important. Mhm. Okay. Sorry, I'm a bit late. There was network problem. Okay. Okay, so yeah, we have lots of good morning here. Yeah. Okay. So our syllabus is complete. Okay. So we'll be going through all the topics, which seems important. And so, if you have any problem, please let me know. Mm, or you want to focus on any topic, let me know. Okay. So okay, so and then we have demand curve. Okay, so demand curve is a downward sloping curve. Okay, which represents the relationship between the demand and price. So there is an inverse relationship between price and demand. So when the price rises, demand falls, and when price falls, demand rises. Okay. So there are two types of change in demand curve. When there is a change in price, it's known as movement along the demand curve. Okay. Movement along the demand curve. So it looks like this. When there will be a change in price, it will be like this. Suppose if the price is falling from P1 to P2, the demand will also rise from Q1 to Q2. That's the so it's moving from one point to another. That's why this is known as movement along the demand curve. And there are other factors like income, population, advertising, interest rate, taste and fashion, price of complements, and price of substitutes. Okay, so for these, there will be a shift in the demand curve. Okay, so shift when that there will be a totally new demand curve. Okay. See, there can be a shift to the right or shift to the left. If the demand curve is shifting to the right, it means demand is increasing, and if it shifts to the left, it means demand is falling. Okay. Many people get confused with this. Okay, so it's very simple. See that if it's getting closer to the zero, okay, that means demand is falling, right? Okay, so shifting to the left means demand is falling, and if it's getting away from the zero, that means it's going to the right. That means demand is increasing. Okay. And what are the factors? The factors are mm, all the non-price factors. Due to change in price, there will be a movement, and due to change in other factor, there will be shift in the demand curve. Okay. So next we have in yeah let's go through these factors. Like the first factor is income. So when income rises, there will be a rise in uh, demand for goods usually, right? So these are known as normal goods. Okay. So usually what happens, whenever income rises, there will be a rise in the demand. And inferior means like when the income is rising, the demand for a particular goods falls. So these goods are known as inferior goods. So usually these are low quality goods like low price clothing or foods. Okay. What happens because when income rises, we switch to a better quality goods. That's why demand for the goods of these low quality items falls when income rises. Then price of other goods like substitutes or complementary is also an important factor. Like think about like tea and coffee. Okay, so tea and coffee, these are substitutes because they're alternative to each other. So if price of tea rises, then people may switch to coffee. So demand for coffee may rise. And then complementary goods are the goods that are used together. We usually don't use them separately. We use them together, like car and oil. So tar and oil, the relationship is complementary. So when the price of oil rises, demand for tar will fall, right? So so the price of oil is rising. So as a result, demand for tar is falling. So as the relationship is complementary, so that's why it's behaving like this. But see, for a substitute, it behaved differently. When price of tea increased, demand for coffee increased. Okay. Next we have population. Population means like when there will be more people, so people will be demanding more, right? Like when the population will rise, the demand for rice will also rise, right? And then we have advertising. Advertising will lead to higher demand, right? Think about your favorite food. Okay. Suppose burger. If you're seeing advertisement of burger everywhere, then what will happen? Definitely there will be rise in the demand for burger. Then interest rate. Interest rate is the cost of borrowing money. So if the interest rate is rising, what will happen? Then the cost of borrowing money will rise. So people will it will be difficult to borrow money. So there will be a fall in demand. Mm, right? So rise in interest rate will lead to fall in demand. Taste and fashion is like it does not remain the same, right? It changes. So because of this change, demand also changes. Like the goods which are fashionable are have the goods which are fashionable have high demand, and the goods which are out of fashion is has a low demand. Okay. So next we have supply curve. Mm, okay, so we have some more good mornings here. Thank you. So let me know if you're having problem with any topic. Okay, we are going through all the topics again. Okay. So supply curve, it's like an opposite to demand curve. The demand curve was a downward sloping curve, and supply curve is an upward rising curve. Okay. So again, it's a relationship between price and quantity. But this time, think from a producer's perspective. Okay. So rise in price reduced the demand, but in case of supply, rise in price will increase the supply because there is a positive relationship between price and supply. Mhm. And movement, so this is also known as movement along the supply curve. The rise in price will lead to rise in supply. Okay, so it's moving from one point to another. That's why this is like this. And next we have shift of the demand curve. Uh, so the change in price will lead to movement on the demand curve, and when the non-price factor changes, it leads to shift. Shift, uh, shift of the supply curve. So the shift is like it can be right or left. Okay. So when the supply curve shifts to the right, which is away from zero, right? So again, this means that demand supply is rising, and when it's gets closer to the zero, that means supply is falling. So leftward shift means a fall in supply. Okay, price change in price leads to movement, and other factors, not other non-price factors, lead to shift. So let's go through the non-price factors like cost of production. So rise in cost will suppose cost in terms of raw material, labor cost, or any other cost will if it rises, what will happen? There will be a leftward shift, because rising cost will reduce the profit for the supplier, right? And so it will be discouraging or demotivating for the suppliers to supply more. They will be supplying less when the cost is rising, because it's difficult to increase price, right? So maybe your price is remaining same, but your cost is rising. So what will happen? The supply will fall as your profit is falling. Okay, next we have indirect taxes. Indirect tax is like a tax on spending. So whenever suppose think about the from the producer's perspective, whenever they're buying raw material, they have to pay an extra amount of tax. So this rising indirect tax or imposing of indirect tax will increase the cost of production. Okay, so again, it will reduce the supply. So there will be a leftward shift. And next we have price of other goods. So think that there are other options, producers options. Suppose you are producing potato, and suppose you have the option of producing carrot. So when there will be rise in the price of potato, there will be rise in uh, there will be when the rise there will be a rise in the price of potato. What will happen? The carrot producers will also shift to potato, because as the price of potato is rising, what will happen? That producing potato will seem more attractive, okay, more profitable. So what will happen? When price of potato is rising, supply of carrot will fall, because the carrot producers will be switching to potato. Then natural factors is important, mainly for agricultural items, and also other factors, also other things as well. Like suppose if there are sufficient rainfall, then there will be a rise in supply. If the weather condition and everything is favorable, it will be very helpful for any kind of supply. But think about flood, drought, and the other kind of natural disaster. If it takes place, agricultural goods as well as other goods will be suffering, so supply will fall. The rising technology will increase the production speed, so there will be a rightward shift in the supply. Then we have subsidies. For subsidies means it's like a grant or help or aid from the government. So when there will be rise in subsidies, there will be a rise in supply as well, because your cost is falling. Okay. Okay, let's move to the next chapter, market equilibrium. So equilibrium is a situation where the demand and supply is equal. Okay, so in the previous chapter we considered the demand and supply curve separately. So now let's draw it together. Okay, so that's the demand curve and that's the supply curve. So this intersection point where the demand and supply is equal is known as equilibrium price. Okay, and this is known as equilibrium quantity. Okay, so why we are saying these are equilibrium? Because see the demand and supply is equal over here, right? Okay, so see that the demand and supply is equal over here. That's why this is known as equilibrium price. Okay, so and again, if you want to calculate the total revenue, we have a simple formula over here. Total revenue is equals to price multiplied by quantity. Okay, so for any uh, seller or supplier or producer, you can easily calculate their total revenue by multiplying their price with the quantity. Mm. For example, like if a seller is selling his goods at 300 and he sells 3,000 goods in a month, then what will happen? There will be 90,000, 900,000, right? Mm, no, 90,000. 90,000 is their the total revenue. Uh, so there can be questions from here, questions like the shifting of demand and supply. Okay. So see that. It's a different color. Okay. So see that like there can be rise in demand. Okay. So then it will move to the right. So see there is a new intersection point. So this will lead to higher price and higher quantity. So this way we can show many kind of effect in the equilibrium. So in the next class we will go through in details about these topics. Okay. Okay. So see you in the next class. Okay. Thank you everyone. So and I'll also go through these topics. Okay. If you're facing any problem, please let me know. We will try to focus these topics. Okay. So that's all for today. Thank you.